Trivedi into our discussion. Gautam, the question that everyone's now asking is how will the current government recalibrate or re-strategize its agenda after the kind of thrashing it got in the Bihar elections? What's the sense you're getting?
I think it's early days, and I'm sure the government and the BJP in particular is going to sit down and figure out what to do next. We all hope that this only helps accelerate reforms and not slow them down, because if that happens, again, I think the markets, we've got multiple reasons why the market is, why foreigners are shunning the market at this point. The fact that it's too expensive, the capex cycle has not revived, and more importantly, the earnings growth continued to disappoint. So you've got a lot of negatives already sort of priced in, and foreigners and FIs are just not very keen on putting incrementally new money to work in India. So I think at this point, if I was the Prime Minister, I would press the pedal on accelerating reforms.
Morning, Gautam. You must have spoken to a lot of foreign investors as well, filling in them on your Bihar, post your Bihar trips. What is the sense you got? Will they take this as a bit of a referendum on the central government? Would Mr. Modi's image have taken a beating, and so people will sell out or merely refrain from buying?
I think, first of all, I don't think Mr. Modi's image has taken a beating. That's too strong a statement. But what I think is that a lot of people believe this could potentially be an inflection point for the Modi government to step up on reforms. Having said that, I think incrementally, given the fact that valuations, for example, in China are much more attractive than India, at this point, I think foreign investors are not really that hot about putting incrementally new money to work in India. And let's get real. I mean, there is no immediate trigger anyway. The only trigger that really was ongoing earnings. Again, they've been pretty slow. And the Bihar election, which of course has been a complete surprise. The extent, I think, of the loss has been a complete surprise.
Okay, well, that was the management of Godrej Industries getting ready to address the press. The numbers have been quite weak this time around for the company. The standalone business has shown weakness. Revenues were actually down for the company, and the subsidiary Godrej Agrovet also saw headwinds from subpar monsoons. A couple of other segments as well were under pressure this time around. So we'll cut across to the management in just a bit. But before that, Gautam, what's the sense you're getting about the sectoral approach one should have now? Because even some of the classic defensive sectors like, pharma are starting to come under a cloud.
No, I think pharma is, again, first of all, I don't think it's a defensive sector. I think it's a very, very growth-oriented sector. But more importantly, I think pharma in particular is not under a real cloud. It's just that, you've seen Dr. Reddy's getting the FDA warnings, and maybe one or two other companies. But so I think apart from that, the pharma story remains very much intact. So we continue to like pharma. We like the auto space, and we believe that the Seventh Pay Commission, which will unleash a huge fiscal stimulus starting FY17 and FY18, spread over 2 years, we believe the amount could be as much as $50 billion that will be unleashed onto government employees, central, state, and PSUs. I'm combining all of them. So that, I think, will be a massive inflection point for the Indian economy and also for the Indian markets, and more importantly for the automobile sector, the consumer sector, and also to some extent the housing sector.
Okay, well, banks is a tetra-headed monster. There are so many animals there. But, the interview we had with Arundhati Bhattacharya after the results indicated that she was very positive on the worst being over, and even spoke about a 13 to 14% credit growth in the next 12 months. Is there anything in the PSU bank space? I mean, probably the worst of kitchen sinking in BOB is over. Do you read any of them that way, and you will buy that space? I mean, some guys in that space.
I think fair enough. I think if you look at the project launched by the Power Ministry last week, wherein the debt of the discoms will be taken over in a phased manner by the state governments, that clearly is a huge first step in improving the balance sheets of the PSU banks. So I think people want to see, obviously, execution of that before putting money to work on PSU banks. So the appetite, I think, for PSU banks is still not back. But the fact is, I think from our standpoint, the space could potentially look interesting if some of these reforms do actually kick in.
Okay. Anything in the consumption space other than autos?
Yeah, I think the wider consumption space, and I think for that matter, as I said, housing, and again, a direct beneficiary of improved consumption in housing would be cement. Cement, of course, has been going through a rough patch. So I think the other way to play housing actually would be to play cement, which of course you get exposure to infra as well as a result. So I think cement stocks are not exactly going to be performing too well, even maybe for another quarter, but I think now is a good time to start to do some work on them.
Okay, and you want to just give us your view on where you see the lows of the Nifty now, as in how much lower this market could get if the trend continues to remain weak?
You know, I think before I answer that, the other thing which a lot of people, at least on the institutional side, have started to factor in is that do not expect anything significant in terms of reforms or legislation getting passed in the winter session of the Parliament. So as a result of that, I think that too is starting to get factored in, and I think if something does get passed, it'll be great, but you know, it seems at this point pretty unlikely. So as a result of that, I don't see the Nifty falling significantly below 7,500. I think that's really where we believe could be a floor for this market.
All right, Gautam, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining us and giving us your view. That's the word coming in from Religare. The market is still down about 420 points on the Sensex.